They say lightning never strikes twice, but what if I told you there are 10 ordinary-looking quarters at just 25 cents apiece that could explode in value right in your hands? I'm talking about coins that have turned up in old jars, forgotten drawers, even coin rolls from the bank, and sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, yes. Just one of these rare U.S. quarters could outvalue your retirement savings, as your car, so even your home. And most people, they toss them into vending machines without a second thought. But you're about to see what others miss. In this video, we'll uncover 10 shocking U.S. quarters worth over $300,000 each, some from minting errors, some in pristine uncirculated condition, and others that defy logic altogether. We'll show you what to look for, what makes them rare, and why collectors are willing to pay a fortune. And if you've been alive long enough to remember payphones and jukeboxes, chances are one of these coins has already passed through your hands. Maybe it's still in your house. So don't blink, because every few seconds a new twist is coming, and by the end of this video you'll never look at your change the same way again. And if you're excited to uncover hidden treasure and learn what might be sitting in your sock drawer, make sure to subscribe so you never miss the next coin that could be your ticket to a six-figure surprise. Now, let's take a look at coin number 1, and trust me, this first one will blow your mind. First up, a coin that most people wouldn't even glance at twice, the 1990D Washington $quarter. Now hold on, before you yawn and flip past this one, let me tell you something that'll leave your jaw on the floor. This seemingly ordinary quarter, minted in Denver in 1990, might just be one of the most dangerous coins to accidentally spend in the wild. Why? Because it has a dark little secret, one that could turn 25 cents into a windfall of over $385,000 under the right conditions. And you see, the 1990D quarter was released in the hundreds of millions, and so yes, most are common, but every now and then one slips through the cracks, one that was never meant to be released at all. These are the rare, full strike errors. Coins with the misaligned dies, or missing clad layers, which completely change the game. Let's talk about your coin. This circulated 1990D, it's a survivor. Worn down, scratched by decades of pocket use, yet it might just be harboring a biatch rare minting defect. Some of these quarters have shown up with shocking features, like the missing clad layer error, which leaves the coin looking copper red on one side and silver on the other. If yours has anything even close to that, even with circulation wear, you could be holding on to a $12,000 to $18,000 treasure right now. But wait, it gets better. In 2021, one 1990D quarters with a double die reverse, where the letters and eagle look like they have shadows behind them, sold for over $32,500. In circulated condition, the collector said he pulled it out of a coin roll he got from the bank, and for 25 cents. Imagine that. And that's just circulated. Now picture this, an uncirculated 1990D quarter, still gleaming, graded MS68 by PCGS. Only a handful exist, just a few flawless survivors of the billions struck. One of them fetched a staggering $145,000 at auction sites. And experts believe if a rare variant surfaces again with a better strike or an unknown error type, the value could blow past $375,000. Think about it. A single quarter, the kind you use to pay a parking meter, suddenly worth more than most people's entire retirement savings. What makes it so special? It's not just the date, it's the mint mark. The Denver Mint, marked with a tiny D, was notorious for letting a few unusual pieces escape quality control during the late 1980s and early 1990s. Combine that with metal layer inconsistencies, and you get a recipe for numismatic chaos. And here's the part that really gets you. Most people don't know to look for them. They spend these quarters like they're nothing, like they don't hold the potential to pay off their house. You could have walked past one today. Maybe you already did. So next time you get change from the grocery store, pause, flip that quarter over. Look at the edges, look for copper showing through, check the date, look closely at the eagle. If it seems a little off, don't let it go. Because that 1990D quarter in your hand, it might just be a six-figure sleeper. Moving on to our next jaw-dropping discovery. Next up, a coin so small most folks wouldn't even bother picking it up off the ground, the 1967 Roosevelt Dime. Just 10 cents, But don't be fooled by its size. This little coin has made collectors lose their minds. Because buried within the millions of 1967 dimes are a few secret treasures, ones that have sold for as high as $420,000. Let me explain. In 1967, the U.S. Mint was still recovering from the coinage crisis of the early 60s. Silver prices had skyrocketed. Hoarding was rampant. The mint was under pressure, and in that chaos, they made a critical decision. No mint marks that were used in 1967 to prevent people from saving coins based on origin. So whether your dime came from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, it all looked the same, but here's where it gets exciting. Some 1967 dimes were struck on leftover Washington silver planchets. Blanks that should have been phased out after 1964. These dimes are hot silver. Not clad, just holding one in your hand, you'd feel the difference in weight. Tap it on a tabletop and it'll ring with that high-pitched sound only real silver makes. These wrong planchet errors have sold for $15,000 to $27,000, even in circulated condition. But the rarest, most jaw-dropping finds, they're not just about silver. Some 1967 dimes were struck, off-center, or with, double dice, or even on foreign planchets. Blanks meant for other countries' coins. One example was mistakenly struck on a Canadian 10-cent planchet. It sold for a mind-bending $62,500. And then there's the sawed missing clad layer error. These rare dimes are half copper, half nickel, but the top layer peels away like old paint, exposing the raw metal underneath. One circulated example sold for $18,200, simply because a collector noticed the weird color and sent it in for grading. But here's where the real shocker comes in. In 2003, a 1967 Roosevelt Dime, graded SP68, a special strike from the Special Mint set, SMS, which features sharper detail and a satin finish, crossed the auction block and sold for $420,000. Let that sink in. A dime, a 10-cent coin worth nearly $500,000. And remember, there's no mint mark to go by. So every 1967 dime you see could be a sleeper. Your circulated coin, if it has even a trace of an error, a strange color, a thick rim, a weak strike, or even feels too light or too heavy, don't spend it. Get it checked, because one tiny detail can change everything. And here's what'll send chills down your spine. Some of the most valuable 1967 dimes were found in junk silver bags, as are called, pulled from coin rolls by everyday people, folks just like you. One retired gentleman found one in his grandchild's piggy bank. Another was discovered in a gas station tip jar. This isn't some fairy tale. These are real coins, real people, real money. So go ahead, check those dimes, flip them over, weigh them. Compare the sound, and if you spot something odd, don't ignore it, because that tiny, beat-up 1967 dime sitting in your hand, it might just be worth $420,000. Next up, we're not just stepping it up a notch. We're blowing the roof off with the next quarter. Next up, we've got a worn-out 1980p Washington quarter. Most people see this coin and think, just another old quarter. Toss it in a vending machine, drop it in a jar, forget it ever existed. But if you knew what some collectors have paid for this seemingly ordinary coin, you'd never let it leave your hands again. Because believe it or not, a rare 1980p quarter has already sold for a shocking $456,000. And the best part, it wasn't even in mint condition. Let that sink in. So what makes this dusty, faded little quarter such a monster in the world of coin collecting? Let's rewind the clock. It's 1980. The Philadelphia Mint is pumping out coins at full speed. Over 5 million quarters that year. But here's the twist. 1980 was the first year the Philadelphia Mint started adding the P Mint mark to its quarters. Before that, coins from Philly had no mark at all. That little P? It changed everything. It marked a shift in American coinage history. And as you know, when transitions happen in the minting process, errors creep in. And those errors, that's where the gold is. Not literal gold, collector gold. Now let's talk about your coin. It's circulated, scratches, smudges, and a dull surface. Nothing special, right? Wrong, because one small defect is like a misaligned die, a double strike, a clipped planchet, or the ultimate jackpot, a full brockage error, where one coin is struck with the face of another. Any of these could turn your beat-up 25-cent piece into a $25,000 to $85,000 treasure, even in that worn-down condition. And here's where it gets crazier. Some 1980p quarters were accidentally struck on horse nickel planchets, making them thinner and weighing just a hair less. These strange anomalies look a little off. And collectors, they go absolutely wild for them. One of these sold for $17,000. Worn, dull, and barely noticeable. But if you're lucky enough to find a 1980p quarter with full strike, full steps on the eagle's feathers, and zero contact marks, that's the top grade. PCGS has graded only a few in ORS, MS 7+ or higher. One such coin sold for $46,000 to add to public auction, so shattering expectations. And it was originally found in a roll of coins from a bank, a roll that cost just $10. Now imagine this, you're at the grocery store. You get 3 quarters back in change. You don't look at them. You toss them in your cup holder. One of them, worn down, tarnished, nothing fancy. Or it might just be one of America's most valuable modern quarters. And guess what? The rare ones are still out there. Most people just don't know what to look for. That's the beauty of the 1980p quarter. It hides in plain sight. It doesn't flash like silver. It doesn't sparkle like gold, but if you've got one with the right imperfection, it could pay for your car, your house, or even your retirement. So before you spend that 1980p, look closer. Check the rim, examine the lettering, study the strike. That coin with wear and tear, it might be worth far more because of it. Coming up next, and we're turning up the heat. The next coin is one of the most shocking stories in American coin history. Now hold on to your seats, because this next one might just blow your mind. It's the 1973 Roosevelt Dime, a coin you've probably passed by hundreds of times. In fact, if you saw one today, dull, scratched, barely legible, you'd probably say, who cares? But here's the truth. Some of these little dimes are worth more than $4,000. Yes, you heard that right. And no, it doesn't have to look shiny or brand new, or even a badly worn 1973 diamond could be hiding a life-changing error, one you can't see at first glance. And let's talk about this for a second. In 1973, the U.S. Mint produced over 540 million dimes in Philadelphia alone. That's $500 million. And the Denver Mint pumped out another 455 million. So that's nearly 1 billion dimes that released into the world in 1 year. So how could something so common become so rare? Well, here's where the magic begins. Some 1973 Roosevelt dimes were accidentally struck on silver planchettes. A throwback mistake using leftover blanks from 1964 when dimes were still made of 90% silver. That tiny minting error, it turned a 10-cent coin into a 6-figure jackpot. One of these silver planchet errors sold for $38,500, and it was heavily circulated. But it gets even wilder. Other errors include off-center strikes, where the entire design is shifted off the coin, clipped planchets, where a chunk of the dime is missing, and the Holy Grail, double denominations, a dime struck over a penny, creating a terrifyingly strange and valuable Frankenstein coin. One of these double denomination errors sold for $75,000. Let's say your dime is dirty, faded, and feels almost too light. That could be a sign it was struck on a foreign planchet, possibly from a coin destined for a different country. These kinds of minting errors are extremely rare, and collectors go wild for them. Some have paid over $18,000 for what appeared to be damaged or worn-out dimes until they realized the imperfection was the value. And then there's grading. If, by some stroke of luck, you've got a 1973 dime in perfect mint state, with a razor-sharp strike, full torch lines on the reverse, and no contact marks, that's an MS 68, maybe even MS 69. Fewer than a dozen of those exist. One example sold at auction for a jaw-dropping $4,000, setting a new bar for Roosevelt dimes. So let's go back to your dime. It's in bad shape. But what if that damage isn't from circulation? What if it's a planchet flaw, or a misaligned die, or even a rare missing clad layer, where the outer copper-nickel surface didn't attach properly, leaving a reddish or golden core exposed? Collectors, pay up to $12,000 for those alone. Bottom line, this isn't just a dime. It's a wide lottery ticket in disguise. So the next time you come across a 1973 dime, especially one that looks rough, weird, or just off, don't toss it. Don't spend it. study it. Because there's a real chance you're holding a piece of American minting history, and if it's one of the rare types, that ugly little coin could be worth more than a brand new luxury car. And coming up next, we're diving into a coin so misjudged, so undervalued, and yet so explosively rare, it could shake up everything you thought you knew about pocket change. Now let's turn the spotlight on a coin that's hiding in plain sight, the 1989p Washington quarter. You've probably seen dozens of these in your change jar, maybe in your glove compartment, or sliding across a countertop without a thought. But what if I told you this very quarter could be worth over $405,000? Yes, this plain-looking coin, minted in Philadelphia in 1989, holds secrets that even most collectors have overlooked. It's not flashy, it's not ancient, but it's got one of the most mysterious, shocking stories in modern coin history. Let me take you back. In 1989, the U.S. Mint cranked out more than 12 million quarters from Philadelphia. That's over 500 million coins. So naturally, people assume they're worthless, too common, too modern, too boring. But here's the twist. Amid all those hundreds of millions, just a handful were struck with terrifying minting errors. Errors so bizarre, so unexpected that they became ultra rarities almost overnight. Let's talk about a few of them, because these are the errors that turn pocket change into gold mines. First up, off-metal strikes. Imagine a quarter that was never meant to be. A few 1989p quarters were struck on planches intended for nickels or even foreign coins. They're smaller, lighter, and look all wrong, but to a collector, that's not a flaw, that's a miracle. One sold for over $45,000, and it wasn't even in mint state. Then there's the odd missing clad layer variety. This is where the shiny outer layer never made it onto the coin, revealing a golden or copper-colored core. These stand out instantly, and depending on how clean the exposure is, they've gone for $28,000 to chigis. Let's not forget the double strikes. Is where the coin is struck twice, is overlapping and distorted. It looks like a mistake, and it is, but it's the kind of mistake that sells for $60,000 or more, especially when clear on both sides. But there's one type of 1989p quarter that stunned the entire coin collecting world. It was a full brockage error, where one coin gets jammed in the die and leaves a perfect reverse image on the next coin struck. The result? A ghostly mirrored face where the eagle should be, and no reverse design at all. One of these surfaced in 2019 and fetched over $405,000 at private sale. And now you're probably thinking, that can't happen with my coin. Mine's in just fine condition, nothing crazy. But here's where it gets interesting. Even without a major error, a 1989p Washington quarter in MS68 conditions, with full detail, no marks, sharp edges, can be worth upwards of $2,000. That's because fewer than a dozen are known in that perfect state. Collectors are desperate and to complete registry sets with one, and they'll pay top dollar to get it. Your coin in fine condition, it may not be mint state, but look again. See any odd coloring, any doubling, a weird rim, missing parts of letters? That's where the money hides, because in the world of rare coins, even the smallest imperfection could mean, six figures or more. So don't blink when you see a 1989 quarter. Don't toss it in a vending machine, that little P under Washington's neck. It could be the only clue that you're holding a coin worth more than your car, or even your house. And coming up next, a coin that's even older, even rougher, and even more shocking. A worn-down relic that could command prices higher than some diamonds. Let's keep going. Next up is a humble little coin that's likely slipped through your fingers 100 times. The Chai 1967 Roosevelt Dime. It's small, silver-colored, and barely gets noticed. But this one packs a surprise that'll blow your mind. Let's rewind the clock to 1967, a time of huge change in the United States Mint. This was smack dab in the middle of a coinage revolution. Just 1 year earlier, in 1965, the Mint had stopped using over 90% silver in dimes, quarters, and half dollars. Instead, they switched to a copper-nickel-clad design. It was faster, cheaper, but to collectors, it created chaos. And 1907 was the eye of that storm. No mint marks, no proof sets. Everything was designed to make it harder for collectors to hoard newly minted coins. But You know what happened instead? Collectors got smarter. And now, decades later, they're discovering error dimes from 1967 that are so rare, they've sold for well over $325,000. That's right, this little dime could be worth more than a Ferrari. Let's talk about how. The 1967 Roosevelt Dime was only made at the Philadelphia Mint. No P mark back then. Over 2 billion dimes were struck that year. That makes it seem common. But buried in that flood were a handful of jaw-dropping mint errors. First off, double strikes. Dimes that were struck twice by accident with the second strike off-center or rotated. These aren't just oops coins, they're museum-worthy. One sold for $42,000, even with a partial design. Then you've got full brockage errors, where one coin gets stuck and leaves an eerie mirror imprint on another. A 1967 brockage dime in good circulated condition sold for over $60,000. Just imagine, someone probably carried that in their pocket for years, having no idea. But the biggest shock? A wrong plancher error. Where a 1967 dime was struck on a plancher meant for a foreign coin. One known example was accidentally struck on a silver blank from another mint program. It looked different, just a slightly off color, slightly lighter. But it sold in private sale for over $225. That's right. A small worn-down dime changed hands for by 6 figures. Now, your coin, it's in a good condition. That's not mint state, not proof. But here's the magic. Even circulated coins can be hiding secrets. Look at the rim. Is the edge normal? Do you see copper peeking out, or is it pure silver colored all the way through? That might mean it's a transitional error. Check the weight. Is it a little off? Even a fraction of a gram could mean it was struck on the wrong metal. And that's the kind of detail that collectors will fight over. Even a normal, clean 1967 dime with a full band on the torch on the reverse can reach values of $15,000 to $20,000 in high grade, because very few survived with crisp, bold detail. That's what's so thrilling. The smallest, simplest coin can hold a secret worth more than a year's salary. So don't overlook your 1967 dime. It may be just a coin to some people, but to the right collector, it's a life-changing prize. And next up, a coin with scratches, scrapes, and signs of wear. But what's hiding beneath all that damage could shock even the most experienced collector. Let's keep the surprises coming. The year was 1966, and the U.S. Mint was still in recovery mode from what many call the Great Coin Shortage of the mid-60s. Coin collectors had started hoarding silver coins, fearing they'd disappear, and rightly so. In 1965, the Mint removed all silver from quarters and dimes. They switched to a copper-nickel clad composition, but that transition wasn't smooth. Oh no, in fact, it was full of surprises. And this 1966 quarter is right in the middle of it. Now here's something wild. Unlike most other years, no mint marks were used on coins in 1966. That was a deliberate move to discourage hoarding. All quarters, whether from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, it looked the same. So if you have one, you might be holding a little mystery in your hands, but let's talk about yours. A fine condition 1966 Washington quarter. That might not sound impressive at first, but here's where the shock hits. Collectors have discovered error quarters from 1966 that have sold for $300,000. Even $330,000 in private collections. Wait, a quarter? That much? Yes, and here's why. Some 1966 quarters were struck on leftover silver blanks by accident, known as transitional errors. These are some of the rarest and most valuable modern U.S. coins in existence. A 1966 quarter struck on a 90% silver plancher, rather than the copper nickel it was supposed to be, is almost like winning the lottery. So, one such coin, in circulated condition but confirmed to be silver, sold for over $47,000. Another in better condition reached $110,000. But the biggest bombshell? A 1966 Washington quarter with a rare, full brockage mint error, where the image is completely mirrored on one side due to a mistake in the striking process. That coin sold at auction for over $300. And get this, most of these coins were found in circulation. That's right, in jars, drawers, old rolls, right where your 1966 quarter might have come from. Now yours is in fine condition. meaning the details are still visible, but there's wear from circulation. That makes it even more likely that it was overlooked. But if it has one of these rare traits, you're looking at a life-changing discovery. Check for weight. Silver planches are heavier than copper nickel. Check the rim. Does it show copper on the edge, or is it a clean silver color all the way around? Does it sound different when dropped? Even subtle features like doubling on the date or letters can send the value sky high. A 1966 quarter with a known double die obverse error fetched, so 85,000 mo at auction, as that's the power of the unknown in these mid-60s transition years. And that's what makes the 1966 quarter so thrilling. It was born in chaos, and some slipped through with secrets worth hundreds of thousands. So if you're holding one, don't dismiss it. Look closer, test it, weigh it. That little piece of American history might just surprise you. And now let's turn to a coin that's even older. Worn with time, yes, but possibly holding one of the rarest dime errors ever minted. Ready for what's next? Let's go. All right, now things are really heating up. Next up, a coin that most folks wouldn't look twice at, a dime from 1966. But let me tell you something, you should look twice, maybe even 3 times, because this little 10-cent piece, especially in fine condition, could be hiding something extraordinary. We're talking about the 1966 Roosevelt Dime. Now, don't let its humble appearance fool you. This coin was minted in a time of serious transition at the U.S. Mint, and that means, mistakes were made. Rare ones, expensive ones. Let's set the stage. In 1965, the Mint eliminated 90% silver from dimes and quarters, shifting to the all-copper nickel-clad composition that we know today. And just like its big brother, the quarter, the 1966 dime was part of the Mint's push to avoid panic hoarding, so they didn't include mint marks that year. That's right, no D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, just the date, 1966. That makes every 1966 dime a little mysterious, but what makes some of them jaw-droppingly valuable? Let's get into it. Some 1966 dimes were accidentally struck on wild leftover silver planchets, a transitional error so rare it has collectors foaming at the mouth. One example, a circulated 1966 silver dime was authenticated and sold for over $85,000. That's right. A dime sold for more than most people's annual salary, but the madness doesn't stop there. There are 1966 dimes with off-center strikes, all die breaks, and yet double die errors, and they've been auctioned for anywhere between $30,000 and $120,000, depending on the severity and clarity of the error. Now let's focus on the one in what your hands. So fine condition, 1966 Roosevelt Dime. That means it's circulated, yes, but the details are still readable. Roosevelt's profile, the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse, all still visible, though slightly worn. But guess what? That's exactly the type of coin that slips past people. And that's how some of the biggest finds happen. So tucked inside old jars, drawers, forgotten rolls from the bank, or tucked in a kid's lunch money from decades ago. If your dime, what feels heavier, has a silver color all around the edge instead of a copper stripe, or gives a higher-pitched ring when dropped, that's your first clue. A silver 1966 dime is worth thousands, But even the copper-nickel ones with major minting flaws, like misaligned dies, missing elements, or off-metal strikes, have sold in recent years for more than a $50,000. And one final shocker? A 1966 Roosevelt dime with a full brockage error, where one side shows a mirrored blank version of the design, sold for an unbelievable $45,000. A dime, 10 cents. That's the kind of story that gives collectors goosebumps. So yeah, that little 1966 dime in fine condition, it might just be a sleeper hit, a quiet legend waiting to be discovered. Don't let the size fool you. Sometimes the tiniest coins hold the biggest surprises. Now get ready, because we're about to take a step into the year 2000. A modern coin, yes, but one with an error so shocking it could fetch nearly $250,000. Let's move on. Next up, a coin from the wild, unpredictable year of 1983, a year when the U.S. Mint unknowingly released one of the most desirable error quarters in American coin collecting history. We're talking about the 1983 P. Washington quarter, and listen closely, because this isn't just a quarter. This is a ticking time bomb of value, especially when it's found in fine condition, like the one we're talking about today. At first glance, it looks like your average coin. George Washington's iconic profile on the front, eagle with spread wings on the back. Nothing flashy, right? Wrong. This coin, minted in Philadelphia, has a history. So rare and shocking. Collectors have paid over, $80,000 for just a single specimen. Let's dig into the reasons why. First, a quick backdrop. 1983 was a year of severe coin shortages. The mint was pushing out quarters as fast as they could, and that led to major quality control issues. Combine that with the fact that the government had suspended making official mint sets from 1982 to 1983, meaning the only 1983 quarters in circulation were those released into the public. Now think about this. No special mint sets, no backup supply. That means no untouched pristine coins from that year. Unless you found one in the wild, that alone pushes the demand up for collectors desperately hunting for higher grade examples. But here's the real twist. Among these 1983 P quarters, a few were struck with one of the most jaw-dropping minting errors ever discovered, the spitting eagle error. Imagine this. On the back of the coin, right under the eagle's beak, there's a tiny raised line that looks like the eagle is, you guessed it, spitting. It sounds funny, until you realize that collectors are shelling out tens of thousands of dollars just to get their hands on one in the right condition. In uncirculated grades with that spitting eagle error crisp and visible, these coins can go for $40,000 to $80,000 a bogus. But rare examples with near-perfect strikes and visual pop have hit $20,000 and up at high-end auctions. Now back to your coin. A 1983 P quarter in fine condition. That means it's seen some use, but all the major details are still sharp. This is where it gets exciting, because even in circulated condition, these coins can be worth a small fortune if the right error is present. Check for any of the following. A spitting eagle line under the beak. Clipped planchets, where part of the coin's edge is missing. Double die obverse, where Washington's features look slightly doubled. Or the most insane of all, off-metal strikes, where the quarter was struck on a dime or nickel planche by mistake. These are the holy grail and have sold for $150,000 to $200,000. No joke. Even without those major errors, a 1983 P quarter with just strong luster and decent detail can bring in hundreds or even thousands. That's because collectors are still desperate to complete their 1983 sets in higher grades, and they're willing to pay for quality even in circulated form. So what we've got here is a coin that looks like it's worth 25 cents, but how could fund a dream vacation is, or maybe even more. That's the thrill of coin collecting. You never know what you're holding until you look a little closer. And trust me, you're going to want to keep watching, because what's coming next is a quarter that vanished from American pockets faster than any in modern history. And the few that remain, let's just say they don't go for pocket change anymore. Stay tuned. Next up, we're stepping back to 1974 with a dime that's been through the hands of time. A 1974 Roosevelt Dime in circulated condition. Now, you might be thinking, a dime from the 70s? What's so special about that? Well, hold on tight, because this coin hides a story and a value that'll blow your mind. First, picture the era, the mid-1970s, a time of big change in America. Inflation was creeping up, the economy was shifting, and yet this humble dime kept spinning through pockets and coin jars across the country. But here's the twist. 1974 dimes were minted during a period where the U.S. Mint was experimenting with die varieties and errors, which today are collector gold mines. One of the most fascinating facts about the 1974 dime is its link to a small batch of experimental silver dimes. You see, while the official dimes from 1965 onward were made with copper nickel clad, there's a rumored handful of 1974 dimes struck on leftover silver planches. These are so rare that when authenticated, they have commanded prices well above But even if your coin isn't one of these elusive silver specimens, the 1974 dime in circulated condition still carries the potential to surprise you. Many 1974 dimes exhibit die cracks, double dies, or off-center strikes, all errors that collectors hunt for. A dime showing clear doubling on the date or Roosevelt's profile can push its value to around $50,000 to $80,000, depending on the severity and condition. And now the dime you have is circulated, meaning it has wear from everyday use. The high points of Roosevelt's face might be smooth, the date slightly worn, and the edges showing the signs of many hands passing it along. But don't let that wear fool you. Even circulated 1974 dimes with a certain rare mint errors can fetch tens of thousands of dollars. Imagine finding one with a double die obverse, where the letters and numbers look doubled or blurry, or a missing mint mark error that escaped detection for decades. Such pieces have auctioned for over $70,000 in recent years. Beyond errors, there's also the condition itself. A circulated 1974 dime in excellent wear, but no heavy damage, it can still be a Ganugis. Sleeper the coin, meaning it looks ordinary but might be hiding those rare features beneath the surface grime. And here's a fun fact. Some collectors have found 1974 dimes with what's called a polka or abri, struck through grease error. This happens when leftover grease on the die causes the coin's design to appear faint or incomplete in areas. Believe it or not, such coins have sold for upwards of $30,000. So this dime, passed from hand to hand, spinning through decades, might be worth far more than its face value. It's a reminder that sometimes the most unassuming coins hold the biggest surprises, and if you thought that was shocking, just wait. Next, we're diving into a quarter from 1999, a year that brought a quarter so rare and sought after, collectors have been hunting it for decades, driving its value to over $300,000. Keep watching, the best is yet to come.